I don't want it to.
Hello again everybody and welcome to episode 2 of the Horror Sketchbook. So in today's episode we've got a little bit of a different theme today, which as you've probably guessed by the title, it is haunted objects. I had a list of ideas but haunted objects really shouted out to me. I really wanted to cover it because I've just heard a lot of stories recently about different supposed haunted objects. You know, you've got haunted dolls, haunted mirrors, haunted jewellery, which have brought about, you know, like misfortune, mysterious accidents, and that sort of thing. And a little funny story as well I'd like to share is when I was actually editing this video, I had a lot of crazy technical difficulties that I really couldn't explain. For some reason, half of my videos came out in a different format, even though I didn't change a thing. And my computer also kept crashing as well, which my computer's been working perfectly fine for the last so many years I've had it. Also in today's episode, you're definitely going to see me push the book's paper to its limit because I wanted to see how much gouache it could possibly take, as I kind of briefly went over in the last video. I can confirm it does take gouache, but not piles and piles and piles of it, which is kind of understandable considering it isn't made for water-based mediums like gouache or watercolour really. Alas, apart from the technical difficulties and the paper nearly buckling, we are here with episode 2 today, so if you do enjoy this content, I'd really appreciate it if you like to subscribe, so you'll be notified and tune into further episodes in the future. But in the meantime, please grab yourself a lovely cosy cup of tea or coffee or whatever beverage you like to drink, and enjoy. So before I actually start to draw, I'd just like to look around my room to see what inspiration I can find. So here are some of the objects that I have in my room which I think goes really on par with today's theme. So here I had a ring that I own, an astrophyllite sphere, as well as an orgon. Here we're using the same Pentel mechanical pencil. I'd started to sketch out my design for the haunted ring, which is actually inspired by the ring that I own that I've shown here. And disclaimer, no, my ring actually isn't haunted, for better or worse. I just thought the design was actually really interesting. I also made sure the centre stone was large enough so I could create enough room to actually add the spirit that haunts the ring and that it could show through properly. So the next object is a haunted mirror that is actually inspired by a mirror that I own in my own house. I'll pop a picture right here. It's quite an old mirror, I believe it's been in my house for a good couple of decades. Now this one is definitely inspired by the sort of tales that I heard when I was younger about Bloody Mary, where, you know, the ghost is trapped within the mirror. Did any of you guys have the guts to play this game? I tried once in a school bathroom, but then I immediately just ran and left. The last item sketch here is actually inspired by one of my favourite video games of all time, which is Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. I absolutely adore the storyline and the atmosphere and everything about this, even though it was just a little DLC that Rockstar decided to bring out alongside Red Dead Redemption. I don't think I've ever played another zombie game like it since. Also, another little fun fact, I actually did write a whole case study for this game for my university dissertation, and I know you might be wondering, well, how did I get away with doing something like that for such a big paper? And it's kind of relevant to my degree, as I actually did study video games design in university. So my paints are all Winsor & Newton, so that includes both my watercolour and the gouache you're looking at. And of course my favourite brushes at the moment, my Fumui synthetic brushes. So the story behind this mask is that someone steals it from an ancient Mexican tomb, which angers a god that causes the dead to rise from their graves to feast on the living. You don't know this at the beginning of the game, and it's kind of your job to uncover why the zombie apocalypse is happening, and at the end of the game you need to try and put the mask back where it came from in order to put the dead to rest again and restore the peace. So whilst I'm carrying on with my painting, I'd love to share a small little ghost story with you of my own. And this is actually based around a haunted doll that I once met. So to set the scene, I went to a paranormal evening many years ago when I was introduced to a supposedly haunted doll named Flower. The investigators brought her in and claimed that she was a haunted doll, and her job was to aid communication between us and the spirits, as well as keeping other darker forces at bay. And of course, even though I am a believer in the paranormal, I do have a healthy level of skepticism, and I'm not just going to take someone's word that a doll was actually haunted. So I watched on her and just saw what happened through the night. So halfway through the investigation, we decided to have a break, and I was with the rest of the group in the boardroom just having a drink, where me and my boyfriend saw something very odd that happened. So what we had noticed is that the doll, when the table that she was sat at, she had been facing the door the whole time. And a few minutes after we both noticed this, we turned around again and was quite shocked to discover that she had actually turned her head to face us. And I'm really not exaggerating when I say I was genuinely petrified. And I was still sceptical on a level, so I ended up going up to this doll and just having a look at her and just sort of peeping around the back to see if there are any kind of mechanisms or batteries in her that could potentially make her move her head. But alas, there was literally nothing. She was just an old standard doll that turns out was actually haunted. Now that concludes the end of my little ghost story, as well as the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as well as give me a little follow on Instagram as well if you want to see more final illustrations and pieces from me. That is all from me. Have a lovely rest of your day, guys. Bye bye.